Hello, good evening, and welcome to another edition of the CantinaMX podcast. ¿Qué tal, amigos? My name is John Jagu. Glad to have you guys with us tonight as we are broadcasting live on YouTube. And of course, you can listen to this and other of our previous editions of this podcast on the podcast center at iTunes as well as in Google Play. So thank you very much for joining us. A lot to talk about this week. We missed our show last week, so that gives us twice as many topics in which to dig into. As always, we have a distinguished panel of guests with us this evening. None more so distinguished than the gentleman who joins us from South Los Angeles. Of course, I'm talking about Joel Aceves. Joel. Guadalajara finally got the big win.
Yes, it took 8 weeks, but it finally came, and it was indeed a big win. Away at Pachuca, I was not expecting that win. So I'm glad to be wrong because it throws away my prediction. I did say that they will not qualify to the league, but with that win, and then.
Well, let me ask you this: Would you rather be wrong? And
yes.
Because Chivas did that, or would you rather Chivas not made it and be happy that you were correct?
No, I'll rather be wrong.
All right.
I'm glad to have been right for the most of the season.
So if you walked up to Chivas in the bar and you said, "Honey, if loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right."
That's correct.
Okay.
And they go up against Pumas, and they're hosting Pumas, and Pumas has been a train wreck.
I will say this about Pumas: there's only one way to describe Pumas, and it's.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, I've been warning y'all and the listeners, and we had a discussion of this with Martin a few weeks ago. Pumas is they're in dire shape, and I'm not so sure that they have the management and the wherewithal to pull them out of the mess that they've created for themselves. And I'm not so sure that Pumas is going to be. And it pains me to say this, but Pumas is a major candidate to drop next season, not this season, but next season. And I don't know if they're going to be able to get out of it.
Yeah,
frankly.
I don't want to turn this into a Pumas.
Yeah, no, we'll talk about it later.
Not because I mean I just want to. Yeah. I want to finish with the Chivas, but it does seem that they took a big risk getting rid of 2 players that they might have been old, but they were definitely the heart of the team, just like the Picolín and the defender
Verón.
I forget. Yes, Darío Verón, and I think those 2 guys, they would have made a difference.
Yeah, no, they would have. I mean, at least to kind of keep some stability. No, yeah, but we'll talk about Pumas a little later.
Yeah. It's so provided Chivas should get the 3 points at home, but you never know with. Same with Jaguares, we were expecting that win. And I remember you asked me, and I was like, well, we never know, man. And it's this. So, I mean, it all depends how things are at Puma Central. I don't know. But obviously, the game should be in favor of Chivas. If they get those 3 points, that's 6, and that sets them up pretty good for the Super Clásico, which was where I was expecting the nail to be put in Chivas aspirations, but that might not be the case anymore. So, and just to finish on that note, America did announce that all proceeds of that Clásico are going to a charity for the earthquake.
Yeah, they're going to earthquake relief. There was a major earthquake last week off the southern coast of Mexico in Chiapas, which, I mean, honestly, could there be a worse possible place for an earthquake to happen in Mexico than Chiapas? One of Mexico's poorest regions, and it just devastated the area. And that night, actually, it was after we had our meeting. When I saw the news about the earthquake, I immediately contacted all my, the folks that I stood on that, and everything said, hey, it just shook a while, but it wasn't, nothing too major, at least so. So Mexico City at least was spared for that, but obviously the other areas of the country were not, and it was just incredibly devastating. And as I told my cousin, I said I miss Mexico City a lot, but I sure don't miss the earthquakes. So.
Oh, one last thing. I almost forgot. One interesting
Hey,
Chivas tidbit.
oh yeah, just because Chivas won doesn't let you talk for the next 15 minutes, dude. Come on. Go ahead.
But this is now. It's been now 2 years since Almeida arrived. So he's
So he's like
officially
the longest tenured coach, and then how long?
in Vergara. Since Vergara took over, he's the longest lasting coach. So he's played 6 finals. He's won 4. So I mean,
Wow, that's
he's
impressive.
ideal coach. Unfortunately, there's a good chance he might leave in December. So we might get
Well,
into that
that goes
later.
without saying. Yeah, that goes without saying. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But we do have other folks to introduce. We also have over in Hayes County, about 30 miles, like as the crow flies from here, but a good hour and a half by car. In Kyle, Texas, talking about Albert Beto El Chiquis Campa. Chiquis, how are you, sir?
Yes, I'm doing good.
So, Chiquis, am I the only one that are throwing up the about Pumas, or are you starting to see it as well?
Yeah, I'm throwing up this one right here. Hold on.
Oh. I wish I could laugh about it, but unfortunately, it is going to be a major problem. It is going to be a major problem.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with getting rid of the old players affected. I think it's just a mixture of other things, and eventually it was going to happen. Those guys weren't.
Well, to me, Picolin and Veron were. I mean, they were great players. Remember, I mean, Veron particularly was outstanding. A national team player for Paraguay. Played in the quarterfinal against Spain in 2010, and held his own. I mean, I think if I remember right, Spain scored their goal on a penalty. So, I mean, certainly stifled one of the more creative attacks in recent memory. But he was on the wrong side of 35. But to me, the biggest mistake they made this past offseason as far as moves was to get rid of Matias Britos. Because, I mean, he really was kind of the heart and soul of that offense. I mean, and he was a gamer. I mean, he was a small little dude, but he had goal, and he had major. I mean, he could do it with his head or with his feet, and he just had that. He had that colmillo that you need a player to have. Just to kind of get you. And he was always going to give you his best effort, and more often than not, he was going to score. I mean, and he scored some big goals for Pumas. And to get rid of him, I thought was a major mistake, because they don't have anybody to replace him. They have a couple of Chileans that are just not very good, and Rabello and this other Spaniard guy that is just they're just not. I mean, they're nowhere near as good as Britos was. It was a very puzzling move, and now it's going to end up costing them. And the worst thing for Pumas is the fact that their best seasons a couple years ago when they made it all the way to the final, they had like a 30-something point season. Well, that season falls off the books starting next year. So if they continue having these really bad seasons, they're going to be, and like I said, they're going to be in a major relegation snit. And I'm not so sure they have the players, the coaches, or the management to get them out of it. So Pumas is in a major problem, major problem. It's very unfortunate. But glad to have you along, though, Chiquis. Don't want to make you feel bad or anything, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. And last but not least, we have with us, joining us from Escondido, California, a gentleman who thoroughly enjoyed watching his chosen one forward score hat trick last night in Juarez. Of course, we're talking about Daniel Preciado. Daniel, how are you?
Doing good, John. Evening, everybody. Yeah, it was a pretty good showing by the kid. It was a cup game, but everything, little by little. But hopefully, this kind of forces the hand a little bit to give the kid more minutes and actual minutes in league play, because we need those goals.
Absolutely, and Furch, every time we complain about it or make fun of him, he ends up scoring. But he's out of every, what would you say? I mean, he's like maybe gets one out of every 6 or 7 chances instead of where you'd want it like every 3 or 4.
Yeah, I mean, he's become a verb. La Furchó.
La Furchó. Wow. Wow.
I mean, that's notorious status when you're able to when your name becomes a verb in a negative light.
The inventors of the lexicon don't give verbs for people to do things well.
No, typically not.
No one ever says La Barcelonearon. I mean, you just never hear that.
No, and even when it's it's always kind of negative. Even like when with Chicharo, that kind of
right.
That Chicharito, that's another one too. Even when he makes it, it's almost like for a tap in. But yeah, it's he hasn't been exactly lighting the world on fire, and there's not a whole lot of guys there to begin with to put the ball in the net. So, but yeah, positive signs for him because he's young and the finishes were all pretty good quality.
They were not bad. I mean, the first one, personally, I thought it was his best one. I mean, he just tried it, and it worked. And hey, I mean, he was so collected about it too, which is what I mean. You really have to have, as I say in the mother tongue serenidad, and it seems like he has that. He didn't rush it. He just hey man, I'm going to try to see if it works, and it worked perfectly. I mean, perfectly. And so I'm there are some. I know that we want to talk. We'll get into some of the more specifics a little later because we do want to jump right into the national team first. Because I know that the Chiquis is like just grabbing the couch, getting ready to jump in. But we'll do that here in a second, Chiquis. We have since we missed our show last week, which frankly we couldn't have picked the worst time to not do a show after Mexico qualifies for the World Cup. But we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it tonight. When we last left you, we had all made predictions that Mexico would. Well, we were saying if they didn't qualify, they were going to be extremely close. And some said, I think you said that they would do it. Now the factor we didn't take into account for Mexico to be able to qualify against Panama was we all thought that Honduras was going to be the one that was going to lay the egg. And it turned out to be the United States. And that was what allowed Mexico to qualify when they beat Panama 1-0. And then they went ahead and tied Costa Rica 1-1 down in San Jose, where I personally believe that they played probably their best half of soccer under Juan Carlos Osorio. But Mexico's in the World Cup. And they are fully. I mean, I don't know if it really matters, but it seems like they're going to end up at the top of the hexagonal, which I guess is good. And then we just found out today that they actually have quite a few more things to play for. As it turns out that the FIFA announced today the rules of the draw, and they're going to decide the 4 groups of 8 teams not by region like it used to be, but by FIFA ranking, and that includes groups 1 through 4. So in theory, Mexico should finish within the 8th, and I say 8 because Russia is going to be seeded, but they're nowhere near the top 8, so it'll be 7 teams plus them. So Mexico should finish if they finish between 8 and 15 in the FIFA rankings, then they will be in slot 2. So still some stuff to play for, and we'll see how that plays out. But I'll ask you, Dan, since you seem to be the one that was the most optimistic going into these games. Ever since the whole 7-0 thing, and I know that we'll set the Confed Cup aside. We had on this podcast said that there was always going to be a minimum, a threshold that Osorio was going to have to meet in order for him to keep going, basically. And he's in every 2-game chunk that they've had for these hex, he's always won one, and he's either won the other or tied. So he's gotten a minimum of 4 points in 4 of the 5 chunks. So he just keeps going.
Yeah, he seems to have. At least he gets the team to beat the teams they should. It seems like. So the lesser competition, I guess they're not laying eggs, which is, I guess, good. Because, I mean, obviously, I think for the longest time, most of us have always considered Mexico in the World Cup as an automatic. Last time around, that kind of came into question. And yeah, this time around, he's done a great job in qualifying. I mean, tournaments aside, the qualification process has been. I mean, you couldn't ask for more.
Right. It's I know that a lot of people, and Joel included, and some other folks on here, and rightly so, have said that this is, not the strongest CONCACAF group, that the hexagonal that we've had over the past, at least since probably since 2006, when Mexico had another just an incredible cakewalk to qualify for the World Cup. But they still had a couple of stumbling blocks. But this one, if it's not as strong as people say, then I mean, what can we say about the United States? I mean, it's just, I mean, their fans have got to be just absolutely pulling their hair out right now. I mean, seriously, I mean, it's got to be. I mean, well, we know how it feels because we've been through it a few times. But that game against Panama for the U.S. is I mean, I could not think of a bigger game that would be played on U.S. soil for the U.S. really ever. And they're playing in Orlando, which is going to be, I guarantee you, 50% Panamanian.
Yeah, it's going to be probably their hardest qualification process in recent memory since they've started qualifying to tournaments, I think. I can't think of another time where they struggled at all.
One, they had they needed a Paul Caligiuri goal in TNT, a late second half goal that ended up putting them through to Italia 90. But after that, I mean, and then also in 98, if I'm not mistaken, they had to beat, I want to say it was maybe Costa Rica, or maybe, I can't remember who it was, but it was in the last game. And they played in Portland and ended up winning 3-0. Why they don't play in Portland more, frankly, baffles me, because that is one of their best home field advantages, I think. But anyway, so the U.S. Right now is sitting on 9 points with Honduras. Panama is in third place with 10, and the draw that Costa Rica had with Mexico, if Costa Rica had won the game, then they would have qualified. Now what they've done is that they've qualified for at least a repechaje. But the fact, by virtue of Panama having 10 points, Costa Rica still hasn't fully qualified for the World Cup, and they play Honduras. And if I'm not mistaken, that game will be in San Jose. So Honduras versus Costa Rica. Now Honduras can really, really, really do themselves a world of good if they win that game in Costa Rica, and then Panama plays in the U.S. So both teams, for the most part, still, I know Honduras probably still needs a little more help, but they essentially still control their own destiny. And I guess Honduras does need the U.S. to drop some points here and there, so that's not entirely true.
Yeah, it looks like it's probably going to come down to the last fixture to see how it all shakes down. It looks like Trinidad and Mexico are going to get a chance to play the spoiler role. Right,
and because Mexico will be in San Pedro Sula, and then Trinidad will be, I guess, at home against the U.S., which, again, it's not a guarantee for the U.S. that they're going to win that game. Mexico had a very hard time. Everybody has a hard time going. I mean, that's a long flight because you're going to the South American coast, essentially, when you go down to TNT. So that's...
you have to imagine they're going to be really up for a game like that. I mean, that
a chance to knock out the States, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's got to be a huge motivator for the team, even though they're already well out of contention. And they've had an extremely disappointing qualification process. I think we all kind of saw them as, because they always seem to give Mexico a hard time. So I guess I figured they'd be scrapping with the rest of the teams. I thought it was going to be like I thought it was going to be a free fall for that fourth spot. I kind of just figured Costa Rica, the U.S., and Mexico would kind of easily claim those 3 spots, but it's not working out that way.
Well, we always thought it would be between Panama and Honduras for the.
But I think we all. I mean, 4. A year ago, we're all kind of saying the same thing about this U.S. team.
When Jurgen was. I don't necessarily think that we were saying that they were going to, be in danger of not qualifying, though.
I personally thought that the loss in Costa Rica was a big red flag where I thought they may struggle because they started off so slow and put them so behind already.
Right.
I did see this but I saw the team improve so much under Bruce when he first came on that I was like, okay, obviously he's righted the ship and they're kind of back to what they used to be. But I don't think so. I mean, maybe we're. What's that?
I don't think they improved too much when he came on. I think they're still going to qualify even in third. I think Panama and Honduras are going to are going to hose themselves in their remaining matches, and the whole argument is going to be, the back and forth rivalry with U.S. and Mexico. And it's already started. Like, U.S. fans have already stated, well, we're going to qualify easier than Mexico did last World Cup qualifying, which is sort of mediocre talk, but
extremely mediocre talk.
I think they're gonna have it go through no problem on third place.
Right.
I mean, ultimately, it's a non-issue if they qualify. I mean, sure, it costs their coach the job, but ultimately, that's really the goal. So it doesn't matter if you go in.
Right. I can think of so many teams,
or
Mexico included, that used. I mean, Uruguay went through the playoff in 2010 and made it to the semifinals. And Germany had to go through the playoff in 2002, and they made it to the final. So,
there's a lot of people that think Mexico's best World Cup performance in recent memory was this last one, and that's coming off the horrid qualification. So, if anything, that kind of gives us some hope going into the next summer that you never know what because obviously the players.
Well, it certainly gives U.S. fans some hope, because I mean, really, what just getting there is that's. And especially for countries, for national teams like the U.S. and Mexico, and like the Perus and the, to a lesser degree, maybe the Colombias of the world, who they might have but really, you play the World Cup as, I mean, you don't really have that much pressure, because although it might be a little different the way but I mean, like the U.S. for sure is going to be in that Bombo 3 that we talked about.
So that's what I was about to mention. Yeah.
I mean, there's no chance they're going to be in the top 2. That's just not going to. But they're not going to drop as far as the 4th one, right? So
that still puts them in potentially a horrible team.
Yeah, exactly.
A horrible group.
I mean, they're gonna be in a group of death no matter what. I mean, let's face, and so they're gonna get stuck with like if they could have a group of, say, Argentina, France, USA, and then pick someone.
Because you have teams right now like France and Italy that are
France, Italy, Uruguay,
in that 8
Chile.
to 16 range.
Yeah, we'll tell you. We'll say who they are right now. We have in that slot. We have. Okay, so it's going to be the top 7 plus Russia, and as it stands right now, that's going to be Germany, Brazil, Portugal, Argentina, Belgium, Poland, and Switzerland. Not too thrilled about Poland and Switzerland being there. I think that those are very beatable teams. Now, wouldn't that be fantastic if Mexico gets Poland or Switzerland in a group? It'd be great. Anyway, and then the next, so that's going to be them plus Russia. And then 8 through 15, as it stands right now, are France, Chile, Colombia, Spain, Peru, Wales, Mexico. All of them still very much in the, and then England. All of them still very much in the running to qualify. So now, here's what's going to get interesting for Mexico. Now, and reading somebody by the name of Michel Richaud, who's kind of like our Mexican soccer numbers guru, he says that this will help Mexico not. I'll say, si entendí bien, esto ayudará a que México no acabe en un grupo de la muerte. Estaríamos en el mismo bombo que otros importantes. And esa es muy buena noticia. Instalados en el bombo 2 con España, Francia, Chile, Colombia, Italia. No es poca cosa. And Martinez says, is there any chance that we can go out of pot 2? And he says, yes, but they're minimal. If you beat G&T, then it's done. And not only that, but there's going to be, out of Peru, Colombia, Chile, and Argentina, one of them is not going to go to the World Cup, and they're above Mexico anyway. So Mexico basically has 2 spots of wiggle room right now. And if they beat T&T, according to Michel, who actually has a spreadsheet and crunches the numbers, he says that Mexico will probably be in that bombo too. Can't say the same about the U.S. though. So they're going to be in a group, and let's go through the 8 through 15, and those are Chingao. Excuse me. That's France, Chile, Colombia, Spain, Peru, Wales, Mexico, England. So you would think that that's not going to waver that much, but as it says, either Chile, Peru, Colombia, or one of not all of those are going to qualify for the World Cup. So that is definitely good news. Good news for Mexico then. Of course, we'd like to hear what y'all have to say on the chat. I know that we have some folks that are
they're currently 14th, right?
Who's that? Mexico? Yeah, Mexico's 14th. They did not move. You would think that if a loss would be devastating, but or at least a little more nerve-wracking than it should be. Let's see, where is Honduras on this magic list?
Well, I guess I was thinking more of a missed opportunity, because as bad as the summer that they had, at least our perception of how it went, 14th ain't all that bad.
They went down 2 spots, I believe.
No, they didn't.
No? That's what I saw, unless I read it wrong.
No.
In the last ranking, I think they stayed the same.
Oh, yeah, they stayed the same. I was looking at England. Went down 2 spots. Oh, but going back to the U.S. and the comparison to Mexico last cycle, I think Mexico had a good team last cycle. They just didn't perform. This cycle, U.S. doesn't have. Their players are older. Pulisic is their only young and good player right now, and so I think even though they qualify, I think relatively easily in 3rd place, they're going to go out. They're going to go out hard in the World Cup. They're just not up to par. They're going to either have to rely on a whole ton of grit to make it past the group stage, but I think that's not going to be enough.
Well,
it's sort of
I hear grit, and I think defensively organized and hard to break down. That's not this team. This team has gaping holes on defense.
Yeah,
so in some ways, like they almost are forced to play
Gonzalez
a little bit more.
Is going to have to be the stud at the back line. Gonzalez is going to have to do everything. The other guys aren't very good, but the grit, I guess, is just like running their hearts out. Even Altidore, who, and Dempsey, who aren't the speedsters.
Yeah, but that's the problem with the U.S. and Mexico, though, when it comes to World Cup, because that's great, and run all you want in the group stage, but by the time that they go to the the round of 16, they've expended so much energy just getting out of the group stage that their legs are gone by the time they get to the round of 16, and it's just both teams in the last 2 World Cups, I mean, we're just barely hanging on.
So what do you do, John? Assuming that Mexico wins their first 2 games in their group, and they have a chance to either rest a bunch of players or try to win the group.
Well, I think it depends on
what's on the other side, right?
On what the cruce is. I mean, if your cruce is if there's a group where it's like, I'm just throwing names out there. If it's
Greece,
no, like okay, like Germany, France, and then then it's like, who cares? Because pick your poison. It doesn't matter whether you come first or second, because it's
kind of like Holland, but Argentina.
Yeah, exactly. Or if the let's look here. If the
what was it? What was for Costa Rica? It was Chile, Greece, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Greece, exactly. But I mean, that group was very reasonable. But like, if you look at 8 through 16, I mean, it could be France, Chile, Colombia, Spain, but so if you have a chance to play a Peru or Colombia, or a Wales or somebody like that, where you might have where there's a significant difference between Germany and Peru, then yeah, I would absolutely try and try and get the more favorable advantage. Absolutely. But again, I mean, but that necessarily, it also depends on who you're playing, and I mean, there's obviously a lot of factors in there, but I just I mean, I've always thought that that to me is the difference between the top teams in the top national teams in the world and the rest, is that they use the group stage to get ready for the tournament, and for the rest of us, it's the group stage is the tournament for us, and then if you can make it through it, it's a bonus. For them, it's their preseason, it's their pretemporada. That's just the reality.
Yeah, a comment from MJP: Mex won't make it out of the group stage with Osorio if they get a competitive group. I tend to agree. Osorio hasn't done anything in tournaments at all, even in a sorry tournament like Gold Cup.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So let's go down to 17 through.
Mentioning the Gold Cup, though, is kind of lame.
All right, so 17 through 23 are almost all European.
You can't do nothing.
It's almost all European, and it's Italy, Croatia, Slovakia, Northern Ireland, Costa Rica, Iceland, Sweden, Ukraine. So Mexico could draw. I mean, even with Italy still lurking, they could go Germany, Italy, Mexico, Egypt. So I mean, it could still happen. It could still happen. So I mean, I don't necessarily think that Mexico wouldn't have an opportunity to beat. I mean, they proved that they can beat Croatia for sure. I mean, they've done it repeatedly. Slovakia's Northern Ireland's beatable. Iceland's beatable. Sweden's beatable. Ukraine is beatable. So, I mean, I don't necessarily think it'll be as crazy competitive as it could have been for sure for Mexico. I mean, by virtue of getting that bombo dos, I mean that really saves their skin for sure. But yeah, I mean, I could see how. I mean, Osorio has proven that if he can beat lesser competition, he hasn't proven that he can beat better competition, and that's that is certainly going to be the biggest test for Mexico in the upcoming World Cup. Now, I mentioned this at the beginning, and I don't know if you all agree, but in watching the Mexico play Costa Rica, I thought that first half that they played, I know they got an autogol, but was as good a first half as they showed in the entirety of the Osorio process that we've seen over the past, what is it now, 3 years since his first game against El Salvador in 2015. I thought that the way that they were connecting, the chances they were creating, the fact that they were taking outside shots, they were crashing the box when and good on set pieces, solid defensively. It was just a very good I guess interpretation of what it was that he wanted to do, and it was frankly very surprising to see them play as well as they did in Costa Rica with essentially absolutely nothing to play for. Was I the only one that thought that, or am I being crazy? Coel, am I being crazy?
Nothing to play for, at least in my opinion. I know some people were, I think, more from a fan perspective, like this whole sense of pride where we have to win kind of thing. But no, absolutely, this game was a practice game. And if anything, it was just to shut people up for 2 seconds.
And it wasn't as if Costa Rica was just out there for a cascarita. I mean, they had the World Cup qualification in the bag if they won that game. So it wasn't like they were just playing somebody that was that they were playing it just to play. And I think it actually says a lot about the actual personnel that were out there as well. Raul Jimenez was a center forward, and he was outstanding. I mean, as good a game as he could score without scoring a goal that a center forward could have. I mean, he just has really good ball skills, and to me, that if you're going to play the possession game, you got to have a guy like that. And he just, I hope that he gets playing time this year in Benfica, because I think that he could be a major asset to Mexico, more so than Chicharito, in my opinion, in the upcoming year. I just think he has more to offer. And I'm not saying that Chicharito shouldn't start. I think Chicharito can certainly come in off the wing, and they can interchange for sure. But as far as playing center forward, I think it's Raul, and there's everybody else. And he had an outstanding game in Costa Rica. Chiquis, well, you watched the game. Were you? What did you come away with?
I mean, I thought I can agree with you. It didn't really stand out maybe to me as much the first half how Mexico played, but I was pretty happy with everything. Maybe I was distracted at trying to criticize Costa Rica and their players. I've been, at least in my mind, inundated with Keylor Navas praise and love. So I was sort of looking for something to hate, which I did find, and maybe I was distracted from the overall game from Mexico. But that's sort of another topic.
What were you looking for in Costa Rica? What did you see?
Well, on Navas, Keylor Navas, I just see so much. And maybe it's because he's a CONCACAF guy. But I don't see the big deal around him. Even watching Real Madrid games, I see some good stuff. And in the U.S. game, I will admit there was one save that was just spectacular. I was surprised at the reflexes he had, but he caused the own goal in the Mexico game.
Yeah, but he also had some pretty spectacular saves in the Mexico game too.
I wouldn't say spectacular, but there were some good saves.
I mean, he's not going to act like Gordon Banks stopping Pelé every week, but I mean, he positions himself well. I mean, I I guess, you know, there's a lot of thought that, you know, maybe goalies are kind of a dime a dozen, but the fact is that he plays on the best team in the world, starts on the best team, and then stars on the best team in the world. So of course he's gonna be, you know, he's gonna be looked at there. I mean, there was the same thing that happened when, you know, when Hugo was playing in Real Madrid and Rafa was at Barcelona. When you have a player from our area that play on specifically those teams, because they are. I mean, I know that, you know, maybe Manchester United and Liverpool will, you know, might compete, but as far as the most popular teams on the planet, it's those two, and there's everybody else, especially in Latin America. You know, if most Latin Americans are gonna, if they're gonna follow a European team, it's gonna be one of those two teams.
I think in CONCACAF, in its present form, I think you have to just tip your hat and say they're the best player of the region. Because to hold a starting position on any one of those two teams it's no small feat, and it's not like they haven't been.
Well, right. I mean, it's not like the minute you don't perform for that team, it's. I mean, they got rid of James. I mean, they just, you have to perform, especially Barcelona, maybe not as much, but Real Madrid for sure. I mean, they're if you're not there holding your own, then they're like why are you even here? They will get rid of you. You know, they have no remorse. They are just there.
So
They
I mean,
are relentless.
and I know they've been trying to get other. They were trying to get the Gea for the longest time, but even still, he hasn't embarrassed himself in the slightest. He may not be. I know there's this tendency to not want to give him credit for some reason. I don't know if it's a regional type of rivalry, type of hate kind of thing.
Well, Dan, do you think it's the same thing as when people say, well when Chicharito is at Manchester United, all like, all he does is come in and score goals, and he doesn't do anything.
Or the fact that, well, it's funny that you mentioned that. One of the other criticisms was that he was never a starter, which I kind of argue with. I think at some point he was undoubtedly the starter at Manchester United, not at Real Madrid, but because of that, he can't make that claim. Like we can't just give him that title of the best player. I think and no one's lighting the world on fire so much on a really good team to say that they're better. I mean, I know it's impossible to compare a goalkeeper and a field player, but still, I don't see an issue with saying that he's the best. I mean, you know, so what? I mean, it's not like him being there has affected Mexico's ability to beat them. So that's why I don't care. I'm like, fine, take the title.
I mean, they did beat him 2-0 in Mexico City, and I mean, other than Aztecaso, Costa Rica's only beaten Mexico one other time in qualifying. So
yeah, Mexico's beaten with him on goal like plenty of times, enough times, I guess I should say.
Yeah,
right.
If not,
but he's still playing for Real Madrid, and you know, Real Madrid right now is without question the strongest team on the planet, and you know, certainly the most successful. And you know, that's what I talked about earlier about getting rid of players. You know, the minute they don't perform, just goes to show you. It's just a testament of how outstanding Cristiano Ronaldo has been over the past. How long has it been there? Like 7-8 years now. That he's been able to maintain his level of play into his 30s, and then and being able to stay at that club. I mean, that's.
Beto has a reason for that.
I got a reason. Yeah, sort of goes to the same thing as Keylor Navas. Like I would love to just be a fly following him around, and or like reading a autobiography, biography, whatever, on his life and how he was able to get that position at Real Madrid, and the same with Ronaldo, like behind the scenes, how they practice, because I wouldn't doubt that everything revolves around him. And because you see whenever they don't pass to him or they try to shoot instead of center the ball to him, he'll get mad and he'll yell at his own players. So part of the whole system, or part of his success, I think, is that the whole system is based and centered around.
Yeah, what kind of crazy coach would design a system around the best player in the world? What an idiot! Yeah, I can see how that's a huge problem.
Yeah, but what kind of shots are the majority that he gets? Chicharito type shots, like tap-ins. So I would understand, like
Have you ever seen Ronaldo take a shot from long distance?
Okay, yeah, I admit that happens, but a lot of his goals are, you know, headers, tap-ins, which are, you know, the headers are amazing. But yeah, I mean, you have a point. But I'm just saying that, the system revolves around him. If a system were to revolve around any other player, even, not as great as Ronaldo, they'd get tons of goals. Chicharito could get a ton of goals if he would be in that situation.
Right, but that's exactly my point. Is that if their system is so great that they can just interchange players, then why does he stay there? Because they don't need to interchange him.
Yeah,
and it's not about selling shirts because they keep. I mean, seriously.
And I will say
it's Real Madrid.
I will say that the Real Madrid right now would not beat the Barcelona from like 3 or 4 years ago.
Who cares?
And that's goes to the style of play. Just because Barcelona is at a low right now, if they weren't, they'd be sweeping the floor with Real Madrid, which they were doing, 3 or 4 years ago.
I don't understand what your point is.
I'm just trying to diss on Ronaldo and bring everyone's.
But isn't he your favorite player?
Believe me, I'm not me personally, or Cheekies.
No, Cheekies.
Oh,
not really.
Oh, come on.
Actually, now I want to see PSG. I want to see PSG win it all. I want to see Neymar and all those guys that are just banking it. I want to see them do well. So in Champions League, that's what I want to see. I want to see them beat Real Madrid.
Oh yeah, you want to see him beat Barcelona too, or just Real?
Yeah, I'll still follow Cristiano and check out his leg flexing pits.
And again, every time I see him, with his shirt off, and he had his shirt off plenty this summer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I look at that and I look at me and I go, dude, lay off the Kit Kats. And I'm not talking about me. I'm talking to him. It's like, come on, dude. I mean,
well, I look like that also, but I don't feel the need to constantly like flaunt it. I mean, come on, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
how insecure?
Who doesn't have a six pack?
Yeah. Exactly.
I live in California. I mean, they practically give them away for free.
Right. I mean, Joel, how often do you do your little peck dancing in the mirror like Terry Crews?
I don't have mirrors.
No, you know. So you just do it without the mirror.
Are you a vampire?
No, it's because you don't want to fall in love with yourself. You don't want to fall in love with yourself, Joel.
I don't want any more reasons to become depressed.
Oh,
you don't run around your house jumping in the air and then doing. I'll do that every day.
Joel, are we gonna? Sorry, Joel. No.
Like if you get a raise at work or something, you come home, you go to your wife. See, you celebrate, man. Take off your shirt.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. You
around the office.
I mean, I had a good. I worked the Kansas State game. That was a terrible game, as far as competitiveness last week. But for what I was doing for the show and the graphics, I had a fantastic show, and I had a lot of adrenaline at the end, and I would have walked out of the truck and thrown my shirt down and slid into the ground and the whole bit, and yeah, it would have been.
That'd have been awesome.
It would have been awesome. It would have been very nice. Okay, so back to this this World Cup topic, and then we'll go ahead and we'll wrap it up. So it's looking very likely that according to our mathematicians, that Mexico will probably be in that Bombo Dos, and if that's the case, then things are certainly going to look up for Mexico. But my question to y'all, and I'll start with you, Joel, is so it's going to be Mexico. We're thinking Costa Rica. Who else from CONCACAF is going to be in the World Cup?
It's 3. Who is the playoff spot against?
Against Asia, and it's looking like it's going to be. I think Asia's playoff, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be between Syria and Australia. Let me verify that real quick. Let's see what the FIFA says, and then Asia. Okay, here's so. Round 4 is going to be between. Dun dun dun. I think I have dramatic music for this. Or did I get rid of it? Oh, there we are. That's awful loud. Sorry about that, boys. Anyway, it's looking like, it's going to be Syria and Australia. So it's going to be the winner of the Syria. And frankly, I mean, I don't know that much about Syria. Obviously, Australia been in it, but apparently Australia's had a real rough go of it too. So I think that this is a toss-up. So it would be between Syria and Australia. Then the fourth place team would go. So who you got?
Well, next match. So U.S. hosts Panama. I think U.S. will get the points.
They're going to win. Okay.
I see them winning.
Well, if they win, then they're at least in the
third spot
in the fourth place. In the fourth place for sure.
I don't see Honduras beating Costa Rica because they go away to Costa Rica.
Right.
And then Trinidad goes to Azteca, and with the whole
it won't be Azteca,
with the World Cup thing.
Alfonso Lastras.
Oh yeah, that's right, San Luis.
Yeah.
Still, I think that added some spicy. It gave it some meaning. The World Cup change up.
Right.
So.
And then Mexico goes to San Pedro Sula.
Yeah, on the 10th.
Honduras fighting for their World Cup lives.
And then the U.S. visits Trinidad. So.
And Panama hosts Costa Rica. That'll be the last. So who you got then?
Yeah. So yeah. I think the U.S. is gonna be third.
Okay, U.S. third.
Yeah, and then I'm not looking at the schedule. I'm not looking at the points. So it's either between, what would it be, Honduras and Trinidad?
Well, right. If the U.S. is third, no, it'll be between Honduras and Panama. Trinidad's been eliminated. They're done. They're toast. They are not there anymore.
Actually,
who knows, man? Costa Rica already qualified. They might not care.
I have trouble believing they're not going to care, though. But sorry, go ahead.
Maybe not care. Like we don't care because their fans are pretty, especially it's doing Texas or something.
We're adding up the numbers.
So,
that's pretty great. I didn't know you had that sound effect. That's hilarious. The tax man.
All right. So as you were saying, Joel, so U.S. third, and then between Honduras and Panama for the fourth spot. Right now, Panama has 1 point on them, and So I mean, they both.
And
need
Panama and Costa Rica are playing at the last fixture, just so you know,
in Panama, and then Honduras is playing Mexico in Honduras. So who you got, Joel? Panama or Honduras? Whose hearts are you going to break tonight? Atracho hearts or Canalero hearts?
Oh man, it's a tough one. It's definitely a tough one. But Panama's hosting Costa Rica. So yes. Yeah, I think the I was looking at it backwards. Yeah, I give it to Panama.
So Panama.
I think they're gonna,
Now here's what Panama has to play for. If they beat the U.S. in Orlando, they qualify for the World Cup. If they beat the U.S., they qualify for the World Cup. So that is something massively huge for them to play for.
Yeah, but
and they have no problem playing the U.S. and they obviously had no problem playing Mexico. I don't necessarily think that it's a slam dunk for the U.S. Even if Panama if they get a point, that would be. I mean that would get them so close to the repechaje. I tell you, this is as big a game as it is for the U.S. And you also have to remember. I mean, think of what Panama went through. The U.S. knocked them out.
I think of the three teams vying for those two spots, I think you have to say Honduras has probably the harder of.
They do because they need help.
And I have trouble seeing Mexico losing. Even if they did show up with an alternate squad, I don't see them losing, or at least it being easy. So that's
right.
I definitely think they have the harder of the two teams.
So let me ask you this, and I would ask. Remember when Osvaldo did that thing? Was it in 09? When
he Durant it?
Exactly, we said 1-0, yeah, and it was pouring rain. What if there's a result that if
sorry.
Okay, so what if there's a result that if it holds, I'm not saying what it is, but if it holds, would what are the Catracho goalie be telling the Mexican players, hey guys, come on, enough, we're done.
I don't think so.
Calm down.
I don't think
so.
Or
would it be like
Osvaldito's a special kind of guy?
Was that in your adult soccer watching experience, Dan? Where did that moment rank for you?
I think it's top 5 of cringiest moments for sure. I mean, I think top 3 easy. I'm trying to think of other ones where I'm just like, holy shit, I can't believe this is. It's not easy being a Mexico fan. I think, and also for those few minutes that we were out of the World Cup.
Right.
I think those two were some definitely low points.
That was awful.
I personally hated Osvaldo, even at Santos. I mean,
there was this other time when Memo was playing for the national team and he ate like a few goals, and Osvaldo was in the stands and he was like, "Put me in." He was like climbing over the rail or something.
Yeah,
that was pretty awesome.
I actually thought that was pretty funny.
It's funny, but
it would be funny if he was any good and he could even do any better. But since he couldn't, that's why I was sort of.
Well, that I think that moment though was just kind of the antithesis of how people describe him, of being such a battler, all hard and being a tough guy, and the way he's always just barking at everybody, and then he's came out looking like a punk. Really, I mean, that's how else do you do that? You're asking the team to take it easy on you.
See, I've always thought about that, and then also in the 07 Gold Cup final when Ching was awarded that super soft penalty, and Landon was gonna, and Osvaldo like walked right up to his face and was like trying to like stare him down. It's like, dude, just enough, dude, walk away.
Well, there was another time when the U.S. scored their two.
Oh, and he tried to trip him.
Yeah, he tried to trip him.
That's
yeah.
Yeah, that was a great one.
So, well, I guess what it sounds like to me, at least, is that if you have like top 5 cringiest moments, Osvaldo's going to be in the neighborhood of about 4 of them.
He's involved in almost all of them. Yeah, that's incredible.
That is
what a distinct honor.
That
makes for a good that should make for a good story. Maybe we should collaborate and write something.
Yeah, well, see now their issue with that, we can actually now segue nicely into our next topic, is that we were talking about earlier about verbs and how things become verbs, and how come no one ever had the la Osvaldo for situations like that. So the good segue for us, because I know that I want to jump in and talk league stuff, and this is a good opportunity for us. So we're talking about verbs earlier, asking Dan about his new heartthrob, his new. If Dan was subscribing to Santos Teen Beat, this would probably be the centerfold, and it is a picture of is his first name Adolfo? Is that right?
No.
What's his first name?
Ronaldo.
Is it Ronaldo Cisneros?
Yes.
Who had a hat trick last night for Santos in the Copa MX game again in Juarez at the Olímpico Juarez.
I heard he's going to be shaving his entire head and just leaving a top little fuzz at the very top, keeping it old school style, like to just try to harness the
like the actual Ronaldo, el fenómeno.
Yeah.
Or as he should be known as Ronaldo.
That, and he's going to get someone to kick his teeth in.
Now you guys are a little younger than me, so is Ronaldo a bigger deal to guys that are like maybe in their 30s, just because he was just so crazy phenomenal when you're like in your teens and this and that? So does he mean a lot more to?
I think when you start saying the word best players, I think for most guys our age, I would venture and I would say Ronaldo is probably their favorite, especially because of the longevity he had. I would have personally say that Ronaldinho was the best I ever saw.
Right.
But it was just for such a short little window that
man, even fat Ronaldo was good. I mean, that's what's so crazy about that. He was outstanding, and that was with how many knee injuries he had. He had a couple of knee injuries, if I'm not mistaken. That he was still able to maintain that level of play for that long.
So yeah, I mean, there's a reason that there's a bunch of kids out there, especially, I mean, all over the world named Ronaldo, that are probably around 20 years old, probably.
Right.
Or almost. Dude was the best. He was awesome. He was powerful. He was quick. He was just awesome to watch.
And he just did it with he could do it however he wanted. It just didn't matter.
And you're right. He was good fat. He was still good even though he was fat. Like that was just like the shocking thing. It's like, man, that's incredible.
He wasn't too fat though. He was.
Well,
I mean, he wasn't.
No, skinny. I mean, at the end, he got pretty.
I think when he looked
like an overstuffed sausage.
Well, that's when he sucked, I think.
When I was, but Ronaldo sucking was still better than 95% of the strikers, and that's just
because his finishing is still there.
Right.
He'll still tuck it away in the corner even if he gets his shot.
Last summer, when I worked on the Copa America Centenario stuff, our unit manager for HBC, the host broadcast company, was a Scottish guy actually. His name was Gary. Sounded like Gary Thomas, a real nice guy, and he'd been in TV for a long time. And he said that they used to do the charity game, like Ramadan charity games. And Puskás, the Hungarian Ferenc Puskás, who played with Di Stefano back in the 50s, apparently he said he got a little rotund in his older age, but he said that it didn't matter because his ball skills, even in his late 40s, 50s, 60s, were still so outstanding that he could still do whatever the hell he wanted, and it would, he was gonna. Granted, he couldn't run very fast, but as far as managing the ball and still knowing what to do with it, it said it never went away. He said his parent was just outstanding. He said, I couldn't believe watching somebody who looked like that play like that, is what the guy told me. Then I said, good, there's hope for us, because he and I had we have a little pooch. But anyway, it was. I
think it's a style of play that they have. It accommodates for a heavier weight and old age. Like I think Messi, now that we're talking about that, if he were to gain old, well, he's gonna grow older in age. I don't think his game is really fitted for that, so he might go downhill quicker.
I think what's going to end up happening to Messi, in my personal opinion, is that I think that he's going to end up, if he wants to continue to play, he's going to
end up midfielder. Yeah,
exactly, like a holding it, and he's going to be an outstanding one.
He'll have to turn into a Cuauhtemoc, because Cuauhtemoc also aged well with his. Right. He modified his play.
Yeah,
I mean he's been playing midfield pretty much since Xavi left. So no, Xavi. I think you're right though. He because his explosiveness is gonna obviously it's gonna start going down, but for sure, I think he could probably play till he's 40 if he wants to, just because the rest of his game is so good.
Yeah. What about Ronaldo Cisneros?
Ronaldo Cisneros. You know what I liked about, he's very much a striker, which is like I don't think there's a single player that you think of that has his qualities that are part of that are in the national team. Like obviously it's too soon to be talking like that, but just saying with his qualities, all of them are. I mean, Chicharito was, but even still, he was still a different kind of player. I think he's good because he's very much just like the Aria, he's similar to, but because Chicharito's just changed his game so much in the last few years, so like I don't even see him as a pure striker anymore. I mean, they don't play him like that anymore either. But someone like Ronaldo, that's why I guess I'm kind of hopeful, because like he's just hopefully be like just a very. I don't mind having a very specialized player that's what he does. He's just
if that's his specialty and he's good at it, then for God's sakes, the guy needs to be on the field.
And the truth is, Mexico, I mean, would be best served if they had like 5 guys that could like Raúl and Chicharito plus 3 more. then I think you have a healthy stock of forwards, healthy stock of strikers, goal scorers. But
it's
no,
definitely
it's too soon, dude. I mean, he's super green. I think he had one game where he was playing in like torrential rain and puddles, and he didn't look too good. But these are positive signs for him, for sure.
Now, Chiquis, you said that you were you wanted to take a different position. Is that correct?
I'm hopeful for Ronaldo. The only problem that I see is that no matter what verb comes out of Furch's name,
Furch.
He's the almighty foreigner. So for him to lose his spot, to put some young Mexican local kid into the mighty foreigner spot, even he's still playing, right? Still getting good time. So I think the default is go with the foreigner, even though the young kid will have to do a lot well and consistently more.
I think he's going to have to show in practice, probably.
And I don't agree with Al. He seems to have drunk some really bad haterade. It's like
actually, I hope he does well.
The mate of haterade. Yerba mate. No.
Vete al infierno.
No, that's just not how Santos has been working. They obviously are, they're one of the youngest squads, and they've been pretty methodic of how they promote players. And I do think the way Chepo is, he might be slow, to bring some of the guys in, but he will eventually give them, a chance. He does eventually take a chance. I mean, he was doing it at Chivas. So some of the players that he was playing, they're not at the team anymore. But for example, he had Toño Rodriguez as a starting goalkeeper. Even though he cost him a few games, he had what was his name? He went to Pachuca, Dedos. He had Dedos Lopez. I mean, he will put him in, and I know that's been one of the things Santos, since they're not buying that many players, they're not as deep as they should be, the squad, then they're more dependent on their youth. And I mean, I don't think he's gonna hold them back just because of and I don't think it will be because of Furche. It'll come down to like the other guys. But I think if he shows that he's ready, they're gonna put him in.
I think the poor season is hurting him, to be honest with you. The poor season, I think, is if anything, because the truth is, Furch is a very good player. For being a big guy, he handles the ball pretty well. He holds it up. He's a good passer. He's good. He just hasn't been scoring goals. And I just think that when I guess conventional thinking, you're thinking, all right, the goal scorer is just experiencing a drought, and he's gonna come out of it, and he's gonna start racking up goals. And but the pressure to continually try it and over again and not depend on a totally unproven kid, it gets worse as the losses add up, I think.
And you know what, Dan? It's like a 3-game thing, though, where it's like it's about 3 games that make the season seem like it's been poor. But the team is already in the second round of the Copa MX. And the 3 games was obviously the loss. I think it was against Veracruz at home. So what? So that
who was that? Was that John?
Yeah, but I mean, again, I have no room to talk. I have no room to talk. Don't get me wrong.
Like what the F, man?
A three game win streak, is like the magic elixir. And at Santos, I think they won their last one. So.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like the season looks bad, and it's basically been 3 games where they like the Chivas game, they had it won. They pretty much missed that one penalty that could have had the game totally in their favor. And then the loss against I think it was Veracruz at home. And that
was a bad loss. That was the big one. That was the big awful loss because the other ones you kind of like, all right, they tied.
And then another one, which was what, like an autogol that they gave up an autogol.
Man,
but yeah,
just...
no, but yeah, it's not that as bad as it seemed. Same with Chivas, they win one game and all of a sudden they're, they go eight weeks without having been able to win. All of a sudden they score one game, they win one game, and now they're pretty close to in the liguilla fight.
So
as far as Santos goes, I think they're obviously we talked about it before. Missing Izquierdos was a lot bigger than I thought, but he's back. Osvaldito was out last week, which he's another one who's kind of becoming another leader, or just really dependent. I mean, he does make the team go very much so. That's just the one bad thing about the team right now, that they're just they're not very deep, but when at full strength, I like their chances. I do expect them to start maybe picking up some more points.
Who did they get this season, Dan? Because I was thinking, from having seen them last season when they were one of the teams that
I believe
they lost like once.
They had one addition to, I believe it's this guy named Lozano.
Yeah, see, they needed at least.
Brian Lozano.
They needed at least 3 players,
But they don't have. But they don't have the presupuesto to buy 3 players, though.
Yeah. See, that's what makes it hard.
But and beyond that, though, guys, I actually really like the canteranos that have been playing. The fullbacks, I like them. They got about.
Well, Santos is smart. I mean, they know, and they have a relationship with teams. America particularly, that they learn at Santos, and they end up going to to other teams. So I mean, yeah, I'm sure that if this kid Cisneros ends up being if he ends up having a promising start to his career, if he has like a 15 goal tournament, then he'll be in America the next season.
That's true. Very sad, but yeah. True.
But that's how Santos pays the bills, because I mean, they can sell him to Benfica for $8 million, but they can sell him to America for 19. Where would you sell
him? Yeah. Well, I believe that's probably what I don't know who was and
then Sandoval is on his way too. Sadly.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I believe he was. Some teams were already kind of looking into him. Since there's a big upside with them, though, just because they're so young.
I really like Sandoval. I think he has. I wish he would have played on the Gold Cup. I would like to have seen what he would have been.
I'll say this much: he's got a bit of a nasty edge to him,
which I think
definitely lacked in the Gold Cup squad. Because there could it could. He's a bit of an emotional guy. You can tell already. I've seen enough of him play where he gets into it. Sometimes a little too much. He gets loses his head a little bit.
Right.
But the fight is, you kind of like it. The just that
now let me ask
drive
you this:
to want to win.
Is he a Bugs Bunny, or is he a Woody Woodpecker? And what I mean by that is, Bugs trouble always came looking for him. Woody Woodpecker was always looking for trouble.
Like, he's more like a Woody Woodpecker, I would say.
Oh, so he's looking for trouble.
I'd win. Yeah, no, exactly. I definitely think he's a Woody Woodpecker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. Well, Santos, I think they have. Who do they have? They have Cruz Azul this week. So you got a Saturday game, Dan. A Saturday afternoon game. I don't know if how that works for your schedule, but right off the bat, by 5 o'clock Saturday, you're like, well, I don't have to watch anymore this week. I'm done. But of course, you would never do that for a loyal listener.
That'll be the good
the dedication we show.
The warm up for the Canelo fight, I guess.
Oh, that's right, the Canelo fight. I'm producing a Dynamo this weekend, so I won't get a chance to. Well, but the Canelo fight's probably they don't fight till what, like what, 9 o'clock your time, and that when they usually come out?
Yeah.
9, 10 o'clock your time.
Yeah.
So
About 9 o'clock probably. You're 7 o'clock probably.
Yeah, but I mean,
11. You're 11.
I have a West Coast game this week, so I'll be done at midnight. So we'll see what happens. We will see.
I'm sort of hoping Canelo gets knocked out just to shut up Golden Boy.
That's terrible. What a terrible thing to wish upon over something that someone else is doing.
It's a fight.
Why would you want to
fight, man? It's a fight. You're supposed to get knocked out.
Oh,
just to shut up.
But to root for a guy because you don't like another guy.
You know what I was thinking about?
De La Hoya, man.
You know, I've never met Perm, but he sounded just like Oscar de la Hoya. We could have had Oscar de la Hoya the entire time.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, seriously,
the same logic they both bring.
They look identical. I've met Fernando. They look identical.
Really?
Yes.
That's interesting. So they could be brothers.
Very much so.
They could be brothers.
No way, man. De La Hoya? Who are you talking about?
Listen.
No, I think everybody who knows.
Shout out to Fernando.
Yeah, they know. Yeah, man. They don't look too much alike, actually.
So I guess I think that Joel, when we first introduced him on the show, said that he had some juicy Chivas gossip. So Joel, your Chivas are winning, or at least they won. They have Pumas this week, so we should probably chalk up another win. But you said that you had some inside information. You and Jorge had a chat. Did you and Jorge have your weekly chat already?
No. Well, what happened was that last week Higuera was in. He went to Europe, and he had pictures with Caixinha, and these rumors started flying. You know.
Yeah, because he posted it on his own Twitter page. So you wouldn't know that, Juan, because you've been blocked.
He did. He blocked me as being a Woody Woodpecker myself. But there is some substance to it. So I know the media a lot of times, you know, they sensationalize. But it's been, you know, I even talked about it. It was a few months back, how in an interview with, I think it's El Financiero, Santiago Hirsch, who is Almeida's representative, said that, you know, he saw Almeida staying at least 6 more months. The reason they asked him was because during the summer, some rumors had come up that I think it was Alaves wanted Almeida for the team. So one of the other rumors that came out is that Simeone has handpicked Almeida to be his successor at Atlético de Madrid.
Handpicked, huh?
Which, yeah. So Simeone is expected to leave in December.
Why is he going to leave in December? Where's he going?
I don't know, but he wanted to leave since last season. I don't know if he has offers, but I guess he feels his time is up. You know,
but why would he do it? I don't think he would do it mid-season though. I don't think he's that kind of guy.
That's been the rumor for a while.
I think it could happen at the end of the season, but I don't think it'll happen in the middle of the season.
Yeah. So I mean, he said he would this guy will come in to take his spot. It will be.
So maybe they're just going to swap. Maybe Simeone comes over to Chivas then.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. But that was the other thing that got filtered out, because I had wondering, like, why is he saying that he's going to stay 6 more months minimum, or at least, given that he had a 5-year contract. So the other thing that came out was that he renegotiated his contract. So after December, then I think he has a release clause now, which is Almeida.
Right.
So they wouldn't have to pay. So, I mean, but I do think, given that it is mid-season, if he does stay the whole year, then at least. But that's if the Atletico Madrid board, they go along with Cholo.
I just I mean, because they're in Champions League, right? So I just don't see them making that move at midseason.
Oh yeah, I agree with you.
Those good looks and long locks are taken in places, I guess.
Yeah. No, I mean unless they could announce it and then he'll stay. But so who knows? Who knows? I guess he's gonna have some options for him available, but his doesn't look like he's gonna stay the long. But I mean, if you heard some of his interviews, that's always been the case, that he's going to he's wanting a national team or go to Europe.
Right. No, I mean I understand. I have no no issue or anything at all. I mean, if the guy wants to advance, further his career, I mean, for what as you mentioned earlier in the show, the fact that at the 2.5 years that he's been in Chivas is the longest tenured coach in the Jorge Vergara era at Chivas, which is, well, one, it's terribly sad that it's only 2.5 years, but I mean that's certainly an accomplishment because I mean obviously Vergara is notorious for his quick decisions when it comes to coaching. So I mean, I personally believe that this was going to be his last year period, and I mean, I don't think there was any chance he was going to stay any longer. He's an ambitious guy. I'm not saying that Chivas is a stepping stone, but I think that if he's able to collect another trophy for them, I think that Chivas fans will certainly hold him and we'll remember him fondly for what he was able to accomplish. One of the coaches along with Tuca and Chepo over the past 20 years that have won trophies league trophies for Chivas. So yeah, it'll be a good move for him, whether it goes to national team. But it sounds like he probably will go to Atletico, and it makes all the sense in the world. And then I'll tell you what's going to happen, Joel. It's going to set off a chain reaction of coaching moves that's going to end up with Mourinho coming and coaching Chivas, the special one. The special one's going to end up at Chivas. I think they could afford it.
He makes like 10 million a year. I don't
offer him 11.
I don't know.
Offer him 11.
No. So then, yeah. I mean, I think after December, we'll have a better,
All right. So here's I'm going to give you a deadly Chivas scenario. Let's see how you handle this one, Joel. Okay. So Vergara says, you know what? Why can't I give? I got, I can do this. I got the budget. I should, we should have. I'm gonna go get Mourinho. Right? He sits with him and then he says, I'll offer you 12 million a year. And then Mourinho hears about the personnel policy. Right? It says, I want to be competitive, but in order for me to be competitive, I need to have, a couple of foreign players. Would Vergara go for it? Would Chivas fans go for it?
No.
No.
He would pretty much.
José,
that would be the end of the team right there.
Con respeto, pero voy a tener que decir que no.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't. That wouldn't happen. The only way I could probably see, and that's a big if you were talking about bringing in a player like Messi or like Cristiano,
right,
where they'll make an exception, like. Sort of how like when America hired Ramon Ramirez.
Not for Andy Carroll.
Caballero Aguilar.
Not for Andy Carroll. Or...
Nah, not for just,
What about for Zlatan?
He's too old, so he wouldn't. Maybe in his prime.
Okay. So what happened? All right, I would just, it was a test, Joel, because I'm sure that if you would have gone the other way, I'm sure that the amount of hate messages we would have gotten from Chivas fans for you. Well, you, not us, but that you would have gotten. I
already get a lot of hate just because.
I'm about to ask you, what is your reputation amongst the Chivas elite? Are you
no, disliked?
Disliked.
doomsayers. I mean, because
is it disliked because you're realistic and you're proven correct far too many times for them to admit, or do you just like to poo-poo everything Chivas does just to do it?
No, what? Because it does come across that. It's come across as like I'm just hating on the team, and to be honest, I did hate on Almeida.
You did.
Just because I did not like how the way he arrived, but I never criticized his tactics or some of his moves. I just didn't like him.
Right.
But I've always given him credit, so that's I got it a bit wrong with Higuera. I still don't like the dude. I got it wrong with the transfers. I did not expect the team to spend as much as they did in that short period of time, or to end up negotiating so much with Grupo Pachuca, which I think that had not factored that in, because if it wasn't for pretty much the bulk of the players came from Grupo Pachuca.
Right.
So I mean, take them out.
Pachuca was to Chivas what Atlas was to Tigres like 5 years ago.
Yeah, take Grupo Pachuca out, and you're pretty much, they would have probably just landed Pulido, which was the other one that surprised me.
Exactly.
20 million.
That has to be the biggest surprise, was that, aside from the fact that they paid what they paid, but he ended up delivering.
Yeah,
you can't deny that.
Yeah, Tigres got their money back. I mean, they
well,
got
sure.
and change.
But he earned, as ridiculous as the fee was, and I think we can all agree that the 20 million for a player like that, no disrespect to Alan, but there's the only team on the planet that could be forced to pay that kind of money to get him and would do it is Chivas. Period. I mean, there's no other team in the world that would ever make that deal. Chivas had to make. They had no choice.
Yeah, that guy has to be forever grateful to Higuera, because Higuera wanted to make He wanted to make a splash, and he did when he brought in Pulido, because he was still being questioned heavily,
And on top of everything else, Joel, Pulido backed it up with how he played.
Yeah, he did.
He did.
He did. He had that, like players of his caliber often do. Those type of players that in the big games they come through.
How do you think Mexico's Gold Cup would have been had Pulido been available? Do you think it would have been different? Do you think things would have been different?
Yeah, I do think so. I think he could have been the leader they needed, and
now he broke a bone in his he broke his arm, right? Not anything in his legs. It was his elbow or something. It was
it was like his yeah, I'm not sure what it was. Like,
so he could at the very least still ride a bike, is what I'm saying. It's like he could still kind of muscle man stay in shape.
Oh yeah.
As far as
ironically, he's expected to come back for the Tigres game.
Really?
Yeah. If I'm Tuca, I send a player to just.
Well, I'll tell you what. If there's any player in Mexico that if they have a decent season, they're going to be on the World Cup team, it's him.
Well, yeah. He has a good chance.
Yeah.
But if I'm Tuca, man, you've done that much damage to Tigres, I'll send a player to get him, dude. Be like just going hard, dude. I'll be like
Tuca's not that kind of guy. Tuca's not that kind of guy.
You'll be like Cobra Kai. Sweep the leg, Johnny.
How dare you? How dare you, sir?
No le voy a discutir con usted.
I mean, seriously. Say, how could you profane Tuca like that? He would never send that kind of message. I don't know what kind of coach you think Tuca is.
Y usted no me va a decir.
No, I didn't say Tuca. I said me. If I was the coach. Right. So I'm not saying that's gonna happen. I'm saying if that was me, I would.
Okay.
Cobra Kai. Before Daniel Sanders.
Let's make sure his elbow's completely healed.
Sweep. Yeah. Yeah, man.
I understand. I understand. Well, Joel, it's I cannot tell y'all how depressed I am just with the reality setting in that this could be Pumas's like like year and a half to 2 year death rattle coming up if they don't seriously if they don't get things figured out, at least by the next season.
But you have an Atlas and a Lobos Buap determined
I'm
to
not
do
worried. I'm
even
not worried
worse.
about this year. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about next year. Morelia was in this hell because they had a season where they had 10 points and where they had 12. Pumas is on their way to that right now. And they could ease. I mean, they may not go down this time, but if they have like a 10 and if they don't make it to 20 points in either one of these two seasons, they're in major problems going into next year. Like they will be down at the very bottom. Problems because they have 2 30-point seasons that are falling off the books.
Well, I mean, having been there, it could be exciting times. I mean, I don't remember paying so much attention to Chivas as when they were in the relegation.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Dan and I went through this together. Like, I think was it 2007, Dan?
I believe so. We're talking
like 10 years ago when Chivo and Pumas and Santos were and then Querétaro was 3 points were taken away from them. They ended up going down.
That's with the 2011 rule.
The 2011 rule, yeah. And so I mean, it's not something, and they had to bring they got to bring Tuca back. I mean, no les queda otra. I mean, I can't think of another coach, and he would do it.
Yeah, Tuca lost to Zacatepec, man.
Tuca doesn't give a tinker's cuss about the Copa MX.
He's scared. I think he's scared. I think I figured Tuca out, man. Here it is.
Oh.
Based on this interview after the CONCACAF Cup.
You should share this with the rest of the teams. Charge.
I would, man. They'd be calling me money. He's scared to take on the national team. He thinks, yes, he can take on the national team for 1 or 2 games, hope and actually get a good win like he did in the CONCACAF Cup, but he doesn't want to permanently take it on there because who knows, after like 5 games, 6 games, 7 games, if he loses, the fans could very well turn on him if they play bad. If he starts losing like a string of games,
you honestly believe Tuca cares about what the fans think?
Yeah, he said it in the interview. He said Jorge Campos asked him, "Would you take the national team for 4-year cycle?" And he said, "Well, right now the fans are happy with me because I just won the CONCACAF Cup. But down the road, if I start losing,"
and he was telling us that one of their partners, one of their broadcasts, Jorge Campos, you said,
yeah.
Yeah,
so
okay.
I think deep down.
You want to know why Tuca won't take a 4-year cycle? He was part of a 4-year cycle, or not, más o menos a 4-year cycle when he was an assistant under Mejia Barón. Tuca wants no part of a 4-year cycle. He knows all the BS that goes into that. He saw it all. He saw it all firsthand. He don't want any part of that. He just doesn't, and especially now that he's in his 60s.
He doesn't want the stress of the press hating on him.
He's not.
Blow up against the press. He hates the press when they're not having a good old time.
Well, not just so much the press is. You have to deal with all of the club owners.
It's not
going
just
to what Erickson said.
It's the commercial obligations that drives him crazy.
No, yeah, and at Tigres he pretty much has free reign.
Yeah, he even said as much in the last one. He said, I can't do the Tuca voice right now, but and then he talked about, yo tengo los jugadores para mis entrenamientos y en la tarde tienen ciertas obligaciones. You know what I mean? Like they're shooting the commercials and stuff. And he was smiling, of course, when he was saying it. He knows what goes on. He don't want any part of that at all. I mean, he coined the phrase "partidos moleros" for God's sake. I mean, it's like, he once said that he'd rather be a street sweeper than to coach the national team. Barrendero. So that's Tuca. How dare you? I don't know how any of y'all. So we had Joel say Tuca should delve deep into the dark art, like the darkest of arts.
No, I didn't say you should. I said I would.
Oh, you said you would.
Yeah.
You are a Woody Woodpecker. You do go looking for trouble. Interesting. And then Chiqui saying that Tuca doesn't have the the intestinal fortitude to coach the national team.
He said it himself. I'm just repeating.
Dude, again, you have to take into context, who he's in. He's just not going to say stuff. Yeah, he's not going to say what's really on his mind.
Okay, so he was lying.
Of course.
Oh, that's the fanboy in you talking.
Of course, I'm gonna defend Tuca. A capa y espada the whole way. Tuca and I have a special relationship.
He better. Where is he at in the league?
Tigres. They're within the league.
Oh, they're good.
Yeah. They're not too bad.
And I just wish Pulido would have the fortitude to come out and just admit it. He was making fun of Tigres, and then he changed it up and said, "Oh, I wasn't doing that." He just needs to admit it, and that's just like a weakness on these guys. I don't know who else has done this, or actually he did it last time before, and he denied it. He was laughing at Tigres losing.
I don't see an issue with it. It's stupid that he has to kind of backtrack and say it. I mean,
well, there's your issue with it.
I think if anything, I guess I kind of like the trash talking.
Yeah, so do I.
It's part of it. I mean,
but bring it up, do it face.
Exactly. Yeah, own it, and then deal with the consequences when you lose. If you do that, then I'm totally okay with it.
But Pulido shouldn't say anything, because if Tigres would have invoked, if they would have wanted to,
he could have never played Mexico ever again.
Gentlemen's pact, we're gonna do it, and he wouldn't have played no matter what. Tigres doesn't need money, man. They're backed by Sinergia. They could take that loss, but or not care to make 10 million. But he should be grateful for them, man. He should say nothing but positive things for Tigres, man. And I do think it's, I think he's still a bit resentful. I mean,
yeah.
But that's clear.
He's a don.
He should be more grateful though, because he was in Olympiacos and.
Well, I don't necessarily think grateful is the right word. I mean, he had that whole legal issue with
the contract thing.
Yeah, I think it was more of,
who knows?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a whole lot of.
No, well, see, it's pretty easy because he was at the World Cup. So to go to the World Cup, if you're a Liga MX player, you have to be signed. So what they're saying happened is that he took the deal with Tigres, which he wanted a bigger deal, but he took it just to go to the World Cup. And when he came back, he's like, well, I don't want this. I should be playing in Europe, And there was really no offers for him though at that point. So I think that's part of the reason. And there's just players you're not going to the World Cup from a Liga MX team without being under contract.
Well, I understand that part, and I'm pretty sure he did sign something. The part that I can't and I won't ever get past is that his, and I say agent with air quotes, agent worked for Tigres. So who is the guy really the agent for?
Just the fact that a conflict like that could exist is
exactly
crazy.
Yeah, that's the part that I will never get past.
I mean, you don't have to go through law school to know that something's fishy with that little arrangement.
Yeah, but that's the case with a lot of the Liga MX.
You know what that's like, Joel? That's like if you're sitting and you're
see,
negotiating
it's
and your
hard
agent
to
gets like Bob Loblaw. Sorry, Dan.
No, I was just gonna say it makes it hard. It doesn't make you very credible.
I know, but it's not
when it becomes like he said versus he, like two sides, arguing different side, arguing totally different things. It's the player just becomes a much bigger sympathetic figure in that circumstance, because how can his agent be
looking out for his best interest?
Yeah, it's impossible at that point.
Well, they actually hurt him. I mean, I think he saw an opportunity to go to Europe, and he took it, under the advice of this other guy he was working with, and it didn't even go well with him. He only had like what, 14
whether
14
he
games
hired
in
a
2 years.
regardless whether he got a good agent after, that's not the issue. The fact that it's just a very simple conflict of interest. You can't say with any kind of like any kind of reason to say, yeah, this guy is looking out for me, even though he's employed by the guys that are arguably against me, because in a negotiation there's two sides, they're opposing each other.
Yeah, but these guys aren't getting ripped off. I mean, Liga
Well, it's
MX,
not about getting exactly ripped off.
get
It's that's not the issue though. It's about their credibility. How do I know that what they said is true? How do I know that because it became Pulido saying that they falsified the contract, that they falsified details of it.
The fact that Tigres let him come back makes
I'm
me
just
feel
saying a
more in
claim.
their favor than his. And to him doing this, you could just see he's a bit of a douche.
Well, no, I don't know that necessarily.
To me, but I'm saying that to me lets me.
I totally disagree, because I think that if Tigres thought that they were in the right the entire time and thought that he was just, as you were saying, being a douche by acting the way he was, they would have never let him come back. Exactly. Because one thing I've learned about Mexican teams is that they like to hold grudges. I mean, Joel, I just saw season 1 of El Chapo. I know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so the fact that they let him come back to me says that, you know what, technically we may have been right, and we know that that court ruled in favor of us, but we know we kind of did you dirty, so we're gonna be okay with you coming back to play. That's what I think.
And if it and just to go back to that point that you're making, if it was true, then why would he still? I mean, well, obviously, him being a douchebag, I guess, would be indicative of that. If what you're saying is true, I guess him making fun of them losing is more proof of that. So either he's just a really big jerk, or he's kind of bitter still.
Why not both?
Why not both?
Hey, he's still not saying anything about that contract, though. And guess what? He's not. You can interview him, and he's not going to say anything.
Well, he's probably
decline. Yeah, he's going to decline to talk about it.
Well, no, he's probably signed some non-disclosure agreements where it's shut up about it now, or he's probably liable to get sued if he does discuss it at this point. I'm sure that
there are some cliches that the Mexican soccer players use. When it's, and one of them is uno de estos días saldrá la verdad, and la verdad nunca sale.
Yeah,
is the reality. So he'll say that at some point, or if he hasn't already, uno de estos días saldrá la verdad, and then we'll never know what actually happened. But Joel, I think that they were both in the wrong. I definitely think that Tigres took advantage of him, and that's probably what he was. He probably hastily signed something where, as we're saying, weren't necessarily in his best interest. Or maybe he was forced to sign something.
I don't think it wasn't in his best interest. I mean, he went to the World Cup.
But I
just think he was like se apresuró. He wanted to leave faster. He wanted to go abroad, and he just got desperate. Didn't want to wait. I mean, this guy would have gone to Libertadores. He would have done way better.
Oh, there's no question that he made a bad career move. I don't deny that.
And they would have sold him.
But you know what? He should have that choice to make. He should have that choice to make that bad decision.
Well, then he shouldn't have signed the contract. If he had that much, it's not like he was a starter with the national team. He should have just not signed it then, and negotiated something else. But he did it because he felt, they was going to get more exposure.
But that's what you're arguing, though. I mean, there's still the doubt of what went on with the whole contract, though. That's what I'm saying. That was the whole discussion.
That's what went on, because he was claiming that he didn't sign the contract.
Has he said that he did now?
He's not going to say anything anymore.
Well, that's my point. Like, that's what I'm saying. So that's you saying, like, because you're saying it like it's fact. And I'm saying, like, that's your opinion.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken,
what transpired.
I believe his whole bitch was that he was duped into signing a contract.
I heard even other stuff too, but I mean, maybe you're right.
Because again, his agent, didn't work for him. He worked for the other guys, which I'm sure is part of the academy. Well,
but that's with a lot of clubs. I mean, it's like we can't act surprised even when we see this one dude. I forget his name.
Well, I think this
Jesus.
was a response to you saying he should just be grateful. I think that's what
I
started
said
this whole
I said
conversation. And I'm just like,
recent,
easy there.
just
Maybe he should just shut
recently
up.
him. Well, with him attacking Tigres, it's like or making fun of them because they got eliminated. But it's kind of like a little kid, you know. It's like, dude, let it go, you know.
right.
You're back here. You're making money.
Hey,
You're at a big club.
he got his revenge in the final.
Yeah, but see, ultimately, if you continue like that, or you even make a big deal, you will get 86.
He'll get yeah, but maybe he's doing it in good jest.
Well, I mean, that's what they said. What, he deleted it, or he had to backtrack.
Well, see, again, if you're going to do that to me, then accept what's coming to you, and then if things don't go for you the next time, then accept the consequences. Own it.
Yeah, because it's like, got that memo. Hey, no te olvides, culero. We're hooking you up, and we know we've seen it with some players that then they'll just disappear. You know,
Right,
he'll be stuck in.
Like Britos for Pumas. It is like, I don't know where the hell where is that guy?
Or Angel Reina, man, he can't get a break anymore. I don't know what he did, but
exactly.
Had he stayed in chorus, he could have been competing for a spot in the national team.
There's again, it's I don't disagree with you at all, and it was not his best. How many players, the Mexican players, when we see him coming up 19, 20, 21, are just, oh my God, this guy's terrific, and then they make decisions that 19, 20, 21-year-olds make, right, that aren't necessarily as committed as other folks. I mean, it's just, Pulido's just another in a long line of oof. Imagine if that guy's, career track would have gone a certain way.
Yeah, I mean, because if he stays with Tigres, stays the course, goes to Libertadores, and they reach the final, and he would have been one of the key players.
They never would have gotten Gignac.
If there's who knows, man? But because Gignac came in almost for the, at the end, but by that point they probably still would have, because teams would have probably been after Pulido by that point. Because I mean, your European teams, if you do good in Libertadores, they're more, they're gonna start tracking you down, which happened with Chicharo. He was doing good in Libertadores.
Right.
They weren't exactly saying, oh, look, he has 11 goals in Liga MX. They kind of saw that he was going into these venues against some of these teams and just getting good results.
Well, again, it was, just our whole point of the argument on Pulido is that it was the person that represented him was not representing him at all, and that was a major breach in ethics, and it ended up in a situation where he was, basically on the outliers of the world of soccer for 2 or 3 years. It was, and whether it was a career decision on his point, that's his decision to make. If it doesn't work out for him, then that's on him. I get that, but obviously, I'm sure that he would have, things didn't work out for him with the club where he felt that he needed to make that kind of a move. So, un día saldrá la verdad, as they say.
I'm still waiting for what's his name, Carmona.
Right, on his verdad, and Galindo and all those guys
that had some juicy stuff back then. Chava Carmona was Really good player.
The real reason that that Carlos Vela didn't play in the World Cup.
Yeah. Whoever releases that book,
or the real reason why Capitan Furia didn't play in the World Cup in Mexico. They say it was because he wore different shoes. No chance.
Or that mystery phone call. Remember, Hugo Sanchez warming up World Cup '94. They say that there's a phone call to the bench, right. And then he has to go sit down, and he doesn't get subbed in.
Who made the call?
Yeah, we may never know. I don't think Miguel Baron's going to say it.
Wow. That's very conspiracy theorist of you, Joel, there with that. The whole Capitan Furia thing always cracks me up, though. That the people that did an excuse as flimsy as how he wore different shoes is gonna hold up. But that's a topic for another day. Joel, is Chivas are they gonna get the win against Pumas, or Pumas gonna finally stop the bleeding?
They should get the win. I think it's all in their favor. As unpredictable as Liga MX can be. So at worst I see them tying.
Well, Pumas hasn't won in Guadalajara against Chivas since like the early '80s, right? I mean, it's been a long time since they won.
Yeah, it's like 30 years. Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's a good 30 years.
That is just beyond me. That could happen.
Well, they did get robbed in one game, which was in the final. They were going to win at Jalisco against Chivas, and the ref gave us a phantom penalty kick.
A phantom penalty?
Yeah, it was a foul outside of the box, and they marked it as penalty. And then ironically in the final, Chivas missed. It went to penalties, and the Chivas.
Oh yes, I remember it. I remember it well.
So divine justice for you there, John.
That remains, as long as they've been using ratings in Mexico, the highest rated Liga MX game in the history of Mexico.
I had no idea.
Yeah. I mean and that's in the era. I don't know when exactly they started collecting ratings, but since they started doing that one was the highest rated. That's been the highest rated game.
Wow.
So, well, hopefully, I just if Pumas can make 20 points, and but there's 9 games left. 8 games left, and they have 6 or whatever it is. So they need to get 13 points, and it's not going to happen. It is unfortunate what's happened to them. Hopefully, they'll be able to get it all straightened out. So, last question before we wrap it up here: Does Mexico fall out of the Bombo Dos, or they stay in Bombo Dos for the World Cup?
Hey. I'm sure if you're asking Joel or me, or
well, I'm asking the panel, our panel of distinguished. They stay down.
But yeah, no, I think they should be able to stay in their present spot. I don't think that there'll be especially now that there is that to play for. I'm sure that might actually be enough to motivate him to call the European guys. That's going to be interesting to see who he calls up.
Yeah, no, right. I agree too. I agree. They stay.
Yeah, so according to Michel, if they beat TNT, then they'll be there, and because of the fact that there's going to be one team for sure ahead of them that's not going to make the tournament, so that gives them another cushiony spot. So and again, if that's the case, that's going to help Mexico avoid a lot of incredibly difficult teams that would put their history of advancing past the group stage at every tournament they've played in since 1986. In a very precarious situation, so it doesn't look like that's. I'm not saying that they're going to advance, but the chances of them advancing are increased significantly if Mexico is in pot 2, which it looks like is probably going to happen for them, as long as they take care of business at the Alfonso Lastras in San Luis. The last time they played a meaningless World Cup qualifier where Mexico had already qualified was also at the Alfonso Lastras against Guatemala. In fact, it was the debut of one of Mexico, at least Mexican fans in the U.S., one of their favorite, and I say this sarcastically, of course, players of all time. Got his start. I think scored a goal and had or maybe scored 3. Maybe he may have scored 4 goals actually. I know that he had a lot of goals. It was Guille Franco made his debut for Mexico in the meaningless qualifier against Guatemala at the Alfonso Lastras.
Hey, wait. That guy just beats Osvaldo for the most cringiest player, I think.
Yeah, but he never did anything as... are you talking about his celebration?
A celebration. That beats everything, man. I got to give it to him.
But is that cringeworthy, though? Because, I mean, that's just... I guess so.
It's hilarious.
It's cringy, I guess, if you sympathize with how awful he must have felt, how stupid he must have felt. I find it more sad than anything.
There's background and context for that whole thing, though. That's why it makes it even more fun. Because, I just despise that dude for the whole situation around that, and then he comes off trying to, hey, I want to be part of the club.
Well, now wait a second. So here's what I don't understand
about. Word.
Yeah. About the Mexican media is that that was when I was watching Galavisión more regularly, so I would watch that was before ESPN Deportes or Fox Sports, at least for me, was on here, and so I watched the Televisa on Galavisión, and for months, asking La Volpe, hey, when Guille Franco, when he gets his papers, are you going to call him up? And when he called him up, Guille is so good. Because he was playing really well for Monterrey. They'd won a couple of titles. In fact, I believe they were the defending champ, or they believe they won the championship that year in 2005, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I'm not sure. But Guille was obviously a very big part of that team. So they keep they're asking, they're wondering aloud, when is it going to happen? When is it going to, it would be a huge addition, to be fan. And then the minute it happens, how dare you call this guy? Well, how dare you call a naturalized player from one day to the next?
Okay. So you're saying they're asking about him?
Oh, they were begging La Volpe to call him the minute he was available, and then he does it, and then they're furious.
I don't remember the begging, but
well, that's what I was saying. I mean, I used to watch the Televisa, because the Televisa would come on between 10:30, 10:45, and I would watch them about 2 or 3 times a week, and that was the narrative. The narrative, they would just. They would always ask La Volpe about him. Every chance, say, "Hey, man, Guille Franco is going to be naturalized soon. Are you going to call him up?" He's been great in Monterrey. He's been fantastic. He would be a help. When is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? It just it always cracked me up. And then he does it, and then they start acting furious with how dare this guy call this guy up? Who does he think he is? I always found it peculiar that's how they treated that whole situation.
I got a question on that, though. In my soccer history, Mexican soccer knowledge, that was the first time that the naturalized issue came up really huge. Is that the case, or was there stuff before where
well, there was one in 2002 with Caballero, and I mean, it's something that had happened sporadically on and off, so it wasn't the very first time that it happened. I know that happened a lot more back in the earlier years.
Did it blow up as much? Because it seemed like that's.
Well, that I couldn't tell you, because the only one that I remember specifically was 2002, but I know that it had happened, before any of us were born. It's too bad that the Grand Maester is isn't here because he would probably give us that information. But I know that it had happened before, and it used to happen on a pretty regular basis before.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, I just remember liking. I mean, I actually liked him. He was impressive for Monterrey, but then the whole naturalized stuff soured it.
Why? Why do you care?
Because he wasn't the huge deal to be, on the national team and sacrifice your own players, your own Mexican players.
What do you mean by sacrifice?
He didn't even do anything, and it resulted to be nothing really. When you bring a nationalized player on, and this has always been my position, when you bring a nationalized player on, it's got to be somebody spectacular, not somebody that we've got someone equivalent to that, but just because he's from Argentina or from Brazil or whatever, we're going to take him because, just like I was saying for Fuchs, whoever's the South American flavor of the week is going to be preferred, and they're going to be looked at. The Mexican player is undervalued, and how are they going to bring us to glory? If a European player can come, then even better. That's first priority is European, second South American, Brazilian, whatever, and then third, okay, the lowly Mexican. That's why Chivas is like everyone hates on Chivas. Oh, they're all Mexican. They're not going to do anything, and then when they do, it's like everyone tries to ignore it because a Mexican team just beat a bunch of European teams or South American players and stuff. But that's the whole deal with my opinion on the Guille and every naturalized guy that comes on.
I guess it doesn't bother me as much as it bothers you.
I was kind of, at least at that time, and I guess I still am. I'd rather the national team be composed of, I guess, more just non-naturalized players. I mean, under certain circumstances, I guess because you want them to, on some romantic level, like to actually like be Mexican, and he clearly isn't. I mean, by law he is, but like as far as like what he considers himself, he never considered himself Mexican. So on that step, when I was kind of like never liked the idea of the naturalized player, and more than that, I always thought the World Cup is supposed to be a competition between countries testing out like the different levels of each country's football. A naturalized player who just happens to play in Mexico is not indicative of the development of the country. It's not development of the.
But isn't he indicative of the level of play of the league, though?
Indicative level, yes. But that to me is, I don't think, I guess for me, that was never the point of the World Cup. It's not necessarily just to be able to best suit the best technically eligible players. To me, it was supposed to be, and I still kind of see it that way. Like you want to see what these countries are doing to develop their own national teams, And if you're using the product of another country, not just because they were born there, but because they were formed there as players,
I agree with that.
Then it kind of just takes away some of the like they do have success, and it kind of takes some of it away because you're like thinking, well, this isn't a product of the work that Mexico's done to create a great national team. This is like
a band-aid, a patch.
Yeah, a patch, a shortcut. Call it whatever you want. To me, it wasn't so much of a, because I do think that unfortunately the ineptness of the league, ineptness of the teams and the national team and the federation to produce enough players, that a bunch of guys end up getting crapped on, like from fans who resent them being there, but it's not their fault. I don't really blame them. It's more of they should be mad at everybody else. That's
how long had Guilla been in Mexico before he played in that World Cup?
Oh, I have it up right now, I think. 2005. Oh, no, that was the national team.
Yeah, so go with
and that's kind of like one of the other reasons too that like sometimes when we get caught up in the arguments on the internet with opposing fans, with the U.S. That's what I find about like a lot of their best players aren't even being developed in the U.S. They're really relying on youth teams to develop a lot of them. Like, and I think that's a poor sign.
Well, they'll take it where they can get it. Like it was.
Yeah, no, I'm saying that's not a recipe for. I don't think that's sustainable.
Yeah,
and it's not gonna help you grow, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why I think the U.S. is never. Like I've always said, unless the NFL and NBA go away, the U.S. soccer is never gonna win anything.
I don't necessarily. I mean, I think it's going to be very difficult for the U.S. Just because they have to. I mean, it's going to take generations to get to work where clubs are producing their own players at the level that's happening in other parts of the world. So I don't necessarily think it has a lot to do with athletes as far as.
I think it'll take generations of ex-players to become coaches.
Right.
And then and I'm not just talking about like head coaches in MLS. I'm talking about just youth coaches and U20 coaches, and just all of them having experienced a significant amount of coaching, quality coaching, because I think that's ultimately, one of the bigger issues is, right?
Well, let me put this like I do Dynamo games, and Dynamo has an academy, and Dynamo's been in Texas for over 10 years, and they're just now getting to the point where guys are graduating from their academy and making it onto their senior side. Same with FC Dallas. It's just and the other teams running well. So and it is something that's going to take, it's not going to happen overnight, but eventually, over the next, I'm not saying that they're gonna be super duper fantastic and be on the level with Brazil and Argentina and that, but I think that as long as the clubs are given the opportunity to do that, to develop players, I think it will get better for the U.S. I think that was something that I know that Jurgen was.
I
looking
think they
at
have a chance
to do that, but
chance of doing that.
But Coach isn't with us because he would have more insight on that.
Make sure that they continue to get bucks of money. As long as they're able to secure that, help sustain some of those youth teams, and yeah, maybe it'll get some traction and grow. I'm still very much.
Yeah, but right now they do. The U.S. They're using the patch method for sure, because they just don't have as much of a body of quality players as at least as certainly as the top countries do. But who does?
I don't know. At least I guess for me, and I guess I still feel this way. I'd rather lose.
You'd rather lose what?
I'd rather lose. I'd rather my national team lose and less a player than to just one guy like the just.
So you don't want any cell swords. No cell swords. No cell swords for you.
Never have been. It's that's what club football is for.
Yeah. So if you go to trial by combat.
All right.
No, I understand, and I totally get that, and I understand. But as you were saying, if the law says that he's available, then by all means. I always thought that Senior to me was a guy that met his wife, had a family. He was was he born in Mexico? Was he made in Mexico? No, but he spent his entire formidable career in Mexico, and I think he was. That's why I wanted to know when he started playing in Mexico, because I don't necessarily think that was because Guille. It
was 2002.
So he'd been in Mexico for 3 years.
3 years. He was in San Lorenzo since 95 to 2002. That's where he pretty much had his start. Is in Argentina. Came to Monterrey for a little bit, had some good appearances. And he just wanted to go to the World Cup.
Because he ended up
like I say, I
Real.
don't blame him. I mean, I don't blame him for those reasons. I mean, at least that's one positive now. I mean, I don't think he hasn't even really hardly descended lately.
It's the same with the U.S. players or the Mexican American players. They weigh their options just to see where their career is going to take them. In Mexico, they're most likely not going to get to the national team, so they think they have a better shot or Bruce Arena talks to them and they have a better shot in the U.S., so they choose that option.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yes. Lucky for them that's an option.
Yeah, exactly.
That I think most countries, most federations are going to take the more pragmatic approach. So I mean, I'm sure a lot of countries would be happy to suit up 11 naturalized Brazilians if they could. So I understand that mentality, but like I said, I just think that picking a country's second best players probably ain't going to get you the World Cup.
There's a couple of countries that do the Brazilian thing. I think Australia or some weird countries, and then an Asian country had a.
And Spain of all countries.
Well, Japan, when they played, when they made their debut in '98, had a Brazilian guy by the name of Alex.
Yeah.
That played for, and even Spain had Marco Senna when they won the first Euro in 2004. And he'd been a fixture on the national team for 4 or 5 years at that point. So I mean, again,
Diego Costa too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's not. I'm forgetting. I'm probably. There
was a British. Owen Hargreaves was Canadian, and he played for the British national because I think he had British. He was born in Canada, but had British parents. So, it's not like Mexico is the only country that does this, or the U.S. for that matter.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, like you mentioned, in some circumstances, I think it is cool where you'd be like, yeah, I would have no issue with.
I mean, and that's why like a player like Chilindrina, who again or Chaco, I was really hoping when I had that Copa America that Piojo was going to choose Chaco, because in fact I was hoping that he would make a team of as many naturalizados as possible to go play Copa America. If you can play an alternate team, why not? If you can't play your guys, either send
it was pretty dire for a while. I mean, they had Bosso, Chaco.
Yeah, Chilindrina. Oof.
Did they ever try to or did he always play for Argentina? I always thought he was really good.
You were cutting out. Who did you mention?
Oh, I'm sorry, Bruno Marioni.
I have no idea. I don't know if he ever had played for Argentina.
I was a big fan of his.
He was great at Pumas.
He wasn't good enough for Argentina.
But he was good enough for Pumas. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
I mean, I was, I remember when Achita, when he was at Tecos and then later with Santos, man, he was outstanding, and he played so well for so long. I was like, man, I would have loved to have had a if there was, again, another guy who played a good chunk of his career. I remember Tecos girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. She used to post. I think she used to party with him when they were when she was in Zapopan, because she posted a couple pictures with.
I remember that.
Yeah.
She felt his fade.
She
the flat top?
definitely ran her fingers through the flat top, I believe.
She got cut like a knife.
Exactly. No, I mean that certainly would have been fun to have.
And I think sometimes we do get like if he had been called up, I don't think I would have. I didn't have an issue.
I remember in that Honduras game, the Mexico ended up losing when the Chaco was subbed in. The crowd was going Chaco. They were saying Chaco. You remember that? They were cheering for him.
I actually don't remember that. But
Chiquis, you remember that?
No, I don't remember the cheering. I do remember when he went in. He never impressed me, even back in the day.
Chaco? Are you serious?
I was more anxious for
You're
that.
you're like the hardest guy in the world to impress. Oh yeah, Cristiano Ronaldo, man, he's just average. All he does is
I was more impressed with like Leandro Augusto. I would have liked to see him in his prime get called
I
up.
would have loved to have seen it. Yeah.
yeah, he was excellent.
I think then that was like someone who, man, I think when I didn't even know he wasn't Mexican.
You know, he is on the staff right now at Pumas. They should just, I mean, seriously, I think if they have any chance of survival, they just need to put Leandro in charge and just say, Leandro, just do it.
I thought you were gonna say put him in the game, like
No.
like Honduras
No,
did with what's his name, Closely.
he's an assistant for Pumas. And this guy, he was Hugo's assistant. This guy needs to enough. You know, I would hand the reins over to Leandro.
Seriously, so he's showing much promise.
Well, he's an assistant, so I mean, and honestly, it can't get any worse than what we have right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
He was one of my favorite players.
he is. You know, he's another guy
I
who's
loved watching him.
Pumas through and through.
Yeah. I just thought like dude just constantly ran. Was always seemed like he was an open guy. He was great. I loved watching him.
I believe his parents were Polish, and he was born in Brazil, if I'm not mistaken. He definitely had a unique look.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully, boy, I'm not. This is like the letters in Starbucks or in Star Wars rather coming up where it says A New Hope, and I see the name Leandro Augusto's kind of floating by. I think that could be what unlocks the door for Pumas is Leandro. Now I have at least something to cling to as a Pumas fan that is.
He's hope.
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly. We need to record the message and put it in R2 for Leandro to see it.
Yeah. Help me.
Exactly. Well, boys, it's probably a good time to wrap up the show. But I thought we had a good show tonight. Everyone was bringing the heat. It's good.
Time flew. It's already 12.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, we got our 2 hour, 20-minute, 15-minute show in. So it was good. I hope that everyone that listened to this enjoyed this. I know we have folks that don't get a chance to listen live, but do download the podcast, and we appreciate that. And of course, you can do that at the Podcast Center on iTunes, and also for you Android folks on the Google Play. And are we on SoundCloud yet, Chiquis? Did we make SoundCloud?
No, it's a separate platform. So
I mean, you can't just like create an MP3 and
well, I do the MP3s. I'd have to upload them to both places. I could start uploading. I uploaded one episode to SoundCloud, but I'd have to continuously upload. Maybe I'll do it. I'll just upload to both places.
Well, it can't take you that long to do it, right?
Yeah, not really.
I mean, you just dragging and dropping.
Yeah.
All right. Well, no. So hopefully we'll be on SoundCloud too. That'll give us
at least the latest episodes.
It's too bad that we didn't hear from Nate Aburrea last week. I think he was in Mexico City. I think the earthquake had happened. I think he wanted to talk to us about the earthquake last week.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll have Nate on soon so he can tell us about his experiences covering some games down in Mexico, which he's been doing over the past week or so. So we will make sure to have that for you folks that listen to us loyally and religiously. We appreciate it. Dan, thank you so much for joining. I know that you have to get up early tomorrow, so thanks for hopping on.
Excellent. Pleasure as always, guys.
Yeah. Chiquis, thanks again for doing all your technical wizardry that you do, as always. I appreciate it.
No problem. Have a good evening.
Thank you. And I do want to say a shout out to to Joel, who joined us. I had to drop off a little while ago, but do appreciate having Joel on. And hopefully we'll have Mr. Ronda Luna and Rigoberto Ayala back on with us soon. It's been a while for both of them. Hopefully we'll get them back on. And soon. I do want to end the show. If y'all will indulge me, I do work here in Austin, Texas, and we do have a kind of a media family, guys that you work with in and around town and different things. And there was a gentleman by the name of Sean Adams who was a radio personality here. He was on in the mornings on one of the sports stations. A guy that I'd run into at Texas games and other events. Just a really, really, really good guy, real positive guy. A guy who always looked at every situation fairly, and I was always one to look at the bigger picture in almost every issue, regardless of what it was. Someone that I would just kept things down there with. Unfortunately, he on his getting ready to go to Los Angeles to cover the Texas game, passed away suddenly today. Had a heart attack and passed away. He was 46 years old, and it's just devastating news, obviously for his family. I know he leaves behind a wife and 2 kids that are in high school, and it just I cannot begin to imagine the fact that the next Texas game I go to, which will be in a couple of weeks, that I'm not going to see Sean there, because we've seen each other for the better part of 15, 16 years at different events and stuff around town, and so he's really going to be missed, and it's sad to see somebody like that go as young as he did, and that's why we always say that we need to cherish every moment that we have while we're here, because we don't we don't know when it's gonna end for us. So I'll leave you all with that. Just make sure that you cherish every moment that you have while you're on this blue-green thing that we call Earth. So, and my condolences to Sean and his family. Anyway, that will do it here on the CantinaMX podcast. My name is John Jagu. Glad to have you guys on with us. We're on every Thursday night at 9:30 Central, live on YouTube, and of course you can download this and our previous editions at the Podcast Center on iTunes, as well as Google Play, and coming soon on to SoundCloud. Thanks very much. We'll talk to y'all next week.